Hello and welcome to Inches and Cubes, your Toronto-based Warhammer 40k podcast. As always, it's me, Point and Click Nick.
It's me, Mr. Fist Paul Fowler.
And it's me, Nick the Beard, and/or Space Wolf Nick.
Yeah, checks out.
Growlowich.
There we go. Perfect. So Adam won't be joining us today, but we're here in my sweaty nerd basin, and boy, is it sweaty.
It's very nerdy.
It's a heat wave.
Yeah, it's super hot.
So we're back for episode 21, and we totally missed the boat on this last one. Should have been the last podcast, but 8th edition's been out for a year now.
Yep.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. Mm-hmm. Paul's telling Nick to get closer to the mic.
No, just me. Just get closer to me.
So we're gonna kick it off with Prophets and Nomads. We've had this on the podcast before. It's from Collective Arts Brewing, all the way out there in the Hammer. It's got yeast, it's got coriander, and it's got Himalayan salt. Those aren't all the ingredients, just the ones I decided to pick out to talk about.
I think this is definitely one of my favorites by them.
It's good.
Yeah, it's kind of grown on me. I like it.
Yeah,
It's
It's not super sour.
Though I don't like
Gosa.
Goza. The fact that it's Himalayan salt, I'm like, okay, like why?
Is it pink too? Did they say pink Himalayan salt?
No, just Himalayan salt.
Like, because have you ever read like the ingredients list on some of those like Himalayan salt candles? They'll be like, oh, it's salt. But it's
the
also
ones that like cure cancer and make you feel better about yourself.
Yeah, it's like, well, inside this is like antimony and plutonium, and it's like, what? Get out of here, you fools!
Oh, you mean like the rock salt candles? Yeah, I've got one of those.
Yeah,
it shines great light.
Yeah, it glows nice.
It glows really nicely.
Yeah. There you go. You got the benefit.
So it's a great summer beer. You can find it in your local LCBO. If you don't live in Ontario and don't know what that means, we are kind of under the thumb of monopoly when it comes to beer.
Yep.
It's not the worst.
It's totally not the worst. I was with my brother on Sunday, and he was talking about how great Alberta is, and I'm like, it's not that bad here, man. Mm-hmm. We're free in Alberta. Okay, cool.
Sure you are.
Calm down.
Sure you are, buddy.
So yeah, we're here to talk about 8th edition, the year in review, talk about what's happened in the hobby, talk about, what are we talking about?
Just kind of GW's general. We're taking GW's temp. We've asked them to say we're just going to look in.
Okay, we're going that.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Because it's very hot. I can't imagine just the real swamp that you would have to deal with right now.
Yeah.
Moving on. So yeah, we've got Nick here. Normally when we have a guest,
Nick's usually here.
We've got Nick G here, and normally when we have a guest, we do a hobby resume. But Nick's already given his. So Nick, what's your favorite unit that you've been playing lately?
I think the unit that I've been playing a lot recently have been my Wolfen. I really like playing them. Had a good time like converting them, and they're strong. They're fun. I think they do something that a lot of other units in the game don't do, which is like just how their mechanics and their kind of special rules work out. So very unique from that perspective.
Yeah, and you did a great job making sure that they're not chickeny.
Yeah, I don't like the chicken legs and the anime type hair wasn't really my thing either.
Yeah,
so brought all that back.
They're very like Varan gear.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
they're, like very very like they're berserkers with a tinge of werewolf instead of too much werewolf.
Yeah, just a hint.
Yes, just a hint of werewolf.
Yeah. So I'd say that they're my favorite unit right now.
Is there hair growing out of your ears?
Oh, definitely.
Skyrim jokes. I was just staring off fondly, remembering just Skyrim memes. If you weren't collecting Spaceballs, what's the army that you would want to go with?
So I've got a Chaos one that's kind of like in the mix right now, but if I was to go completely different, completely like off the charts, I'd probably go towards Eldar. My sister got me this amazing Eldar book from she's in Edinburgh. She got me this amazing like Eldar sketchbook. And I don't really like the Eldar models originally, but seeing how they were kind of sketched out and the underlying design for them, really, I don't know, sparked some interest. That just seeing them from a different angle, that design angle rather than the like how people end up painting it in that traditional kind of GW style, which it doesn't really get it for me. So
Yeah, there's a weird... Eldar has to be one of the weirdest disparities, Eldar and Chaos, in terms of model range, because you're literally dealing with like striking scorpions. All of the Exarch warriors, aspect warriors, sorry, are metal, right? They're the old metal sculpts next to like new vehicles, and I guess what's the latest thing Eldar came out with? They're flyers.
yeah.
But and you can totally see, you're like, fire dragons, you're like, you don't look cool.
No, and they should be cool. They're orange jumpsuit space elves with fire guns. Like every word in that is awesome.
Yeah.
They should be better.
So what would your dream army be for Eldar then?
I don't know. I feel like my whole thing is I try to make it a little bit different than GW's standard. Like my Space Wolves have done that. I think you guys have seen that with a couple of things I've slowly started doing with my Chaos. I would just want to find like a slight like grimdark tweak towards the Eldar, right? Make them a little bit more grungy and rusty.
So
maybe hone in on that spiritual aspect of them.
So Dark Eldar?
Well, yeah, but like without all the sex.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Just dial that back 2 notches.
All right.
Violence is okay. Sex and nudity, absolutely not.
No, I'm a little too conservative for that.
Yeah, gratuitous violence is great, but
I think it's perfectly gratuitous violence. I don't think it's gratuitous at all. Perfectly gratuitous.
no, so that's awesome. I'd love to see what you could do with some Eldar stuff. Even your the Death Watch, those guys you did just for the Kill Team event, just taking a different, because you build things from the ground up.
Yeah. I want them to be different. I mean, I take a long time. I can't go through things quickly, but I want them to be unique in their own kind of regard. I take a lot of pride in that. It takes me a long time, but that's where I find the fun in my hobby.
It's worth it for sure.
Yeah.
So our normal segments are Hobby Desk
And General's Armchair.
Yeah.
Hobby Desk. I'll start. Still plugging away at those Terminators. Though they're rounding the corner, they're almost finished.
They're looking pretty good. You did a good job on that.
I'm really pleased with it. Marco from the warpainter.com has been up my butt about making sure that I put enough washes on it, and he was right.
Yeah.
They've turned out really well. I'm down to a guy with an autocannon that's based on his, like, the conversion's just wacky because it's the Sergeant Tartaros legs with the tassels, the talbert. Then it's the body from a Praetor Tribune, and then plastic arms from the Tartarus kit that they released with Prospero. And then I don't even know where the head is from. I think it's like a upgrade kit Forge World head, and then it's got like the cape sculpted onto it. So it's just a crazy, like, it's a guy with an autocannon, and I thought about it. I was like, sourcing all these parts, this is like a $200 guy with an autocannon. This is insane. And then the other one that's left to do is a Praetor Tribune with a Thunderhammer.
Yeah, I still use the Praetor Tribune model in my Emperor's Children. I mean, I love that model.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
So that's coming along nicely. I went and did all the decals, or decals, depending on where you're listening. Decals, yeah. That's what I would say. Actually, no, it really depends.
It's decals, but I say decals.
Yeah, it just depends on where in the sentence what poetry it serves best. But in the Imperial Fist transfer sheet, there's these maces with laurels around them, and that's a symbol that Dorn has on his knee pad. So I was like, I'm going to use that as their like cohesive element to make. So like I put that on all the power fists
because these are Dorn's Huskarls, right?
Yeah. So the idea behind the design, I was talking to the guy from Anvils of Conor, and him and the client, before they got to me, they worked out like they would have been killing these things on Intuit, and it would have been like a rite of passage. So, you know, they do it without their armor, and they go into the woods or the asteroid or whatever, and they just have to come back with one of these.
With no armor, just into space. Go!
You're outside now.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Space Marines can live outside.
Yeah, you can hold your breath.
Yeah.
Don't think that's the only thing that matters, but...
I've seen Event Horizon. I know it happens.
No, Space Marines can exist in the vacuum of space for a small amount of time. Like, function, not just exist. Like, I can exist.
Very, very shortly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's just really bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just working on those, getting those all ready, and still trying to figure out how to do a mixed Alpha Legion metallic paint scheme, because I've tried a couple and just have not been able to get one that
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for that like sea green blue metallic, and I've just been mixing the brightest silver that GW has in with like turquoise and a teal. But I think what I'm going to do, I don't know why I didn't think of this until today, but in the gold pack from Scale 75, there is a metallic green in there. So I'm thinking I can use that as the base and just add silver to highlight that, and then chip it with silver, throw some weathering powders over the top of it because it's just for corpses, and then Bob's your uncle. You got an Alpha Legion dude.
Where'd you get that gold set?
I got it from thewarpainter.com. Why, you should check that out. I don't care. I'll shill for a friend.
Damn right.
As we were talking about this before the podcast, you.
Oh yeah. That's what I've been working on.
Okay, so similar note to the metallic green, because I recently put together a Van Sar gang, and I was just cruising through Instagram as I do at work, because sometimes it's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And it was they were showing off the like weird pigment paints that they do, where like every angle you look at it's a different color, but it's still got that same underlying hue. And I think if you were to do instead, so they say gloss coat it black and then paint over, which is what I'm going to do for the Van Sars.
Yeah.
Just to give them like a shimmery energy feel.
That's going to look so cool.
Yeah, I think if you, I know you don't want to spend too much time on this, but if you do like a darker green instead of black, and then go over it with the metallic shimmer paint, I think you might get what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's. Anyways, it's just going to take a couple of test models.
Yeah.
Like that's what's up.
I think I've seen a couple of washes where they do a silver and then they'll do some like turquoisey or blue green washes on top, and it all depends on how you highlight it afterwards, but you can give it that little bit of that tone.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to try and do. But it's also for a base, so I don't know how much time I want to spend on it. So I might just do like straight not metallics, because I think I could just build up teal and kind of shade with purple.
For sure.
Would look really tense, really deep.
Yeah. So all I did was put together the Van Sars. What a kit! Super dynamic posing. No posability, but super dynamic posing. Like I was telling these guys, like there's a neck piece, a chest piece, a back chest piece, 2 leg pieces. Each arm has like 3 different parts that like articulate at the joints but don't articulate. Like there's no posability, but you still have to do like the bicep, the elbow, the forearm.
And there's no groove to make sure that you've got it right?
There is a groove.
Okay.
But there's no, like, you can't pose it.
So why do you think they do this?
I think it's just AutoCAD pumping out designs to be as simple and as efficient as possible.
Mm-hmm. Like, at that point, it has to be about getting the most detail from an injection mold.
Yeah. And you can do that with a little less in the actual piece that you're looking at?
Yeah. I think. Because, like, those things are not cut up the way that you would do it, I think, like, cognitively. It is definitely done, like, efficiently.
Yeah. Right. Oh, for sure.
But
and again, it's the weird parts with the vents as well. Because the AutoCAD does the vents automatically, and there's no thought to user-friendliness. Because one of the things that's bothered me a lot with the AutoCAD stuff, and the Van Sars were a big thing. So they have their smooth chest plates, and then the vents go right into the top of the chest plate.
No.
So like, I had to get a little tiny piece of sandpaper out and like sand it down. Because even with an X-Acto knife, even with the scrape, it's still kind of.
I feel like that's a little bit of an oversight in their planning.
I've had it with a couple things. The Orc war bikes were the exact same. There's like, I mean, orcs you don't really care, right? But you're like, oh, cool. There's a spot missing.
Yeah,
that's where a bullet hit.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I've been working on is a bard character for my new D&D campaign.
Oh yeah, I got to pick up a tiefling warlock.
Hey guys, what's your characters' names? Come on.
Galdor Farflare.
Baracus Two-Tongue.
Love it. I love it.
The finest bard in all of whatever country we're in.
Basically, this guy for me is like, imagine if you crossed Darth Maul and Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
And mine's just a combination of the two guys from The Road to El Dorado.
Yeah, these are great.
I view him as John Ralphio from Parks and Rec.
I love, like, I think following through this podcast, you know, as a listener, it's really interesting to see you guys not talk about D&D at all, to being like, oh, or here there's this thing, you know, that maybe is kind of interesting to, oh, maybe we're going to play once, to now you're actually playing and running campaigns, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
It is a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I do really enjoy it.
When will Inches and Cubes become a D&D podcast?
I think if Adam, like, gets attacked by a giant bird, just gets carried off.
Yeah.
I don't want him to get hurt, just carried off.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So I gotta finish that guy off because I kind of did a bunch of work on him, and then I was just like, oh, he's good enough for our first thing because Connor's character was just a pile of bottle caps.
Hey, you gotta use what you got, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Paul didn't have a character.
No, I'll pick one up Saturday.
Yeah. So there's lots of fun stuff going on in that campaign. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes because, like, back to your point, like playing in your campaign with the other Nick, because there's too many of us. Like that was like really learning it and like learning the mechanics and learning how it works. And like I kind of completely ignored the roleplay aspect. And then this campaign, it's just like I don't really care how good my character is in combat. I am just role playing a character.
But it's also the game, like the GM that runs it has a specific game in mind, and the players too, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a collaboration between because like Nick's game, Nick W's game is super realistic, super visceral, right? He has tons of great models. He sets up these crazy dungeons. We had a full 4x6 like Warhammer table that we walked through. It was amazing, but like that's a very specific focus for his game. It's just interesting, and I think it's really important for D&D players to try different games to see those different aspects and flex those muscles, right?
For sure.
Yeah, because like DVSD, when he GMs, he just does like, imagine this, and I don't think that we're going to use models unless it's combat a whole lot.
Yeah.
So
Theater of the mind.
yeah, that was what he said.
Yeah.
Is this a known thing?
It's a known thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it is known.
It is known.
Yeah.
Nerds.
What are you working on, Nick?
I'm working on two things in preparation for the Hog Towner. I am working on a Wolf Lord on a Thunder Wolf. So I have the Sea Wolves. That's my Space Wolf, not chapter, Great Company, and their Wolf
Heresy.
Lord. Yeah, well, their Wolf Lord is Engir Krakendoom, and I like my models to be who they are. So I haven't run in any of my games. I haven't run any other Wolf Lords. I haven't proxied anything because Engir Krakendoom is the Wolf Lord, and he's not yet built. But now he is almost done. I've kind of given him some base coats. I need to do a bit more like touching up of the weathering, do some chipping. I'm going to give it an oil wash and kind of clean it up. And I'm going to put a bit of effort into this one. I'm I don't know, pretty happy with it.
I'd like to see what he considers a bit of effort.
I really would. It'll be.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, it's gonna come down to time, but it's he's wearing Gravis armor. I know he's on a Thunderwolf, so it doesn't really matter. But I wanted to make him a bit bigger. I feel like as a captain or like a Wolf Lord or something, you should be a bit bigger. You should have a bit more commanding presence, right? You look at the size of those Primarchs, well, Gilliman, or even the Primarchs in 40k, right? They're big. There's just kind of like
I do find that funny how, like, in the fluff for so many Space Marine characters, it'll start with, like, a full head taller than the rest of his companions. Like, there's no Space Marine character that's, like, average.
Alfarius.
Well, yeah. But,
And Omegon.
I mean, I got bad news for you if you're waiting for Alfarius to come home.
Or is it Omegon?
Yeah. Yes.
just yes.
Of course. Yeah, like, there's no Space Marine character that's just like, he's a regular dude. He's just a line trooper guy-sized man.
Yeah. So, working on that. I'm also working on I'm going to make an Action Shield Dread, but it's going to be my Contemptor body, because I've got a Contemptor that I use for, use it as Mortis, use it as, like, a regular Contemptor. But it's got magnetized arms, right? So, I'm just going to build the arms, but I've got a big shield from the Iron Circle Automata.
Oh, that's what that was for, right?
Yeah, so that big shield, I feel like that shield is the most kind of fitting with my army, right? I feel like all the other Dread shields, so the Blizz Dread shield is just like small little buckler, and I understand that Storm Shields, it's not the size that matters. There's like a field around it
Yeah.
or whatever, right? But it looks crap. Like I don't know.
It also looks like it's made of wood.
Yeah.
Get that weak wood shit out of here.
Exactly. So
magic wood from space.
yeah, that doesn't work for me.
Get out of here.
The other big shield would be the Custodes. Like their Dreadnought has a shield, but it's too ornate. It's got too much kind of like the eagle kind of motif on it is far too strong for what I'm going for.
It's a lot of filigree.
Yeah. But the Iron Circle like Automata shield is very utilitarian. Big flat spaces that I can do a lot of cool chipping and weathering on, I hope. But the Dread's its right hand is going to be kind of holding the shield in front of it on the ground. And then the left hand, I've taken the Blizz Dread axe, which also is super stubby and doesn't look like a great axe. And I put a big ass handle on it, so it's like a great axe that he's kind of holding on to.
Love an ass handle.
Yeah. So that's the kind of the goal. I just want to. It's nice, right? Because I'm basically doing two pieces to a model that I'm just going to magnetize on. So it's more of a mod, but yeah, I'm pretty excited for how that.
Oh, look! I was curious to see what you're going to do with that shield, because honestly, the Iron Circle. They're Petarabo's bodyguard. They're some of the coolest models in 30K.
Yeah, those are really awesome.
Just the fact that their hammer is on like this sweet track is like, yeah, why would you ever make a robot that holds a weapon?
No,
because it's not like he needs to go home and like do laundry.
Nope.
Like he's a hammer robot.
Yep.
So yeah,
that's what I've been working on, and I'm really trying to get those done for the Hog Tanner.
Super cool. Yeah, Hog Tanner's in almost 3 weeks.
Yeah, it'll be 3 weeks by the time you hear this.
Yeah. So I'll be posting a list of prizes. It's going to be a long list. There's also a lot of cool stuff coming your way if you're coming to the Hog Tanner.
All you Hog Tanner people must have been real good, because Santa Claus is going to be real nice to you.
Yeah. So Nick's going to tell us about some of his games played while I open the Reckless Rooster from Shakespeare Brewing Company.
Ooh.
Nick was nice enough to bring this for us. Yeah. So the Reckless Rooster does as he pleases. His citrus floral hop aroma complements his balanced malt character. He finishes with a refreshing, mild bitterness that recklessly lingers on the palate. Can you recklessly linger somewhere?
No. Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
This is from Shakespeare, Ontario.
Yep, Shakespeare, Ontario.
Is that close to Stratford?
Yes. Yeah, it's very close to Stratford.
I figured as much.
Yeah, that does make sense, right?
Yeah.
So games played. I mean, I haven't played a ton recently. The real life stuff has been super busy, but going back, played a couple awesome games at the Cottage Weekend. Played some BFG for the first time, which was really cool. Played a great game against Nick W. But the game that I had a lot of fun with was a game with Jay. We played basically like a slow hammer game all afternoon. It was very leisurely. But it was Meat Grinder, and I took my dread list and set up basically one side of the map, just a defensive kind of position in a forest, right? And we had concealed deployments, so I put a couple of models here, token models here or there. Jay brought his Knight Atropos. He brought 3 Contemptors. He brought 3 Mauler Fiends. He brought a Demon Prince. He brought a bunch of other stuff. But he was the attacker, so I actually was able to kill everything in his army. I killed his Atropos on the first turn, but it just immediately came back the next turn.
Blah.
Which is really, it's fun, I guess. But that was awesome. It was like basically a slog. He just pushed things forward. Yeah. And at the end, it came down to I had one model just kind of hiding behind a little ruin. And if the game would have not gone to 6 turns, I would have won. But no, his Atropos just blew him out of the water afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was great.
Yeah, firing black holes at things.
Yeah.
It does a lot of work.
Surprisingly.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's a good beer. It's got a nice barnyardy aftertaste to it. It's definitely an OPA.
I mean, I wouldn't say it recklessly lingers anywhere, but it does stick around on the tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I only have one game. I played a great Battlefield Gothic game with James. We finally got to use the new Battlefield Gothic tables that Adam and myself and a couple other Hog Tanner dudes put together. I mean, take some of the credit, but Adam did most of the heavy lifting. I just painted the boards black. He got in there with an airbrush, did some beautiful nebula, like some star. What do you call it? star flares.
Yeah,
Sort of
flares.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looked absolutely fantastic. We need some more like asteroids and stuff because we were using icy snow lakes.
So this is something I didn't quite understand when we played our BFG game. How much terrain is appropriate terrain on a BFG table?
You don't want a lot, but you still want it to impact the game.
Right.
Because you're like, when we were playing BFG, a lot of us are not playing it to the full extent because we only play it like once every couple months, and we're still kind of like grasping the rules. But usually there's a purpose behind it. It's not, hey, two fleets are fighting in the middle of open space.
Right.
It's usually there's a space station, there's a planet, or you're in a system.
Is there Dyson spheres in like 40K?
I'm sure there is.
Just put one of those out there.
I mean, they're great vacuum cleaners.
Womp womp womp.
Yeah, there's definitely Dyson spheres. That sounds like something the Necrons would totally do.
Oh, yeah.
To kill a sun.
Yeah.
You don't kill a sun with a Dyson sphere. You just hold it hostage from
The
the rest of
the Necrons would do that and then kill it.
Yeah.
But I like to do like a couple good-sized asteroid fields just to kind of like block line of sight and force you to not just like run straight first into the enemy.
Right.
So I was playing against James and his orc fleet, and very different fleet mechanics between the orcs and Chaos. Chaos is very long-range firepower, really good all-round, lots of carriers, lots of cool abilities because I play a Slanesh fleet, and the orcs are just about getting close, ramming, and lots of ordnance as well. Basically, I was able to go sideways on the map and force his entire fleet to come towards me. But I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but there's the old term when you're talking about ships of the line, like Napoleon era naval combat, which is crossing the T, whereas if you can bring all your guns to bear on your opponent while they're closing on you, you basically won the game. And was just able to get like 3 or 4 rounds of shooting in on him before he was able to close the gap, and just stripped away all of the light cruisers, and then there was just the one big Gorbag's Revenge.
Gorbag.
So Gorbag's Revenge is just this big horking Ulk battle cruiser that has like 12 hit points, tons of shields, and just wrecks face within 30 centimeters. But
Not a thing you're saying to me makes sense.
well, people who play BFG will
So
understand.
you have the Chaos Army, right?
Yes, I have a Chaos
Are you going to get an orc? Because I mean, like, I know you're big onto the orcs these days.
Yeah.
Are you going to get an orc BFG army? Or like,
I don't have an extra
fleet?
$400 to throw around, but I wish I could. But I really like how the Chaos fleet works. It was a good game. Yeah, I like that game a lot. It is a little slower, but it's very much like you have to think like 3-4 turns ahead on what you're gonna do.
Have you played any of the Star Wars like Armada or X-Wing or any of those games?
No,
I feel like it's similar, and I've heard similar things, right? Where you're planning by having a vector and by having only minuscule things you can do each turn. It provides you're planning those couple turns out. That's a very different experience than 40K you're planning, but it's not the same.
Yeah, you can
adjust.
You can be a lot more reactive.
Yeah, well, you can turn 180 with no penalties. You cannot turn 180 in Battlefleet Gothic, right?
Right.
So yeah, it was just a great game. And back to what I was talking about before, I do want to start playing some of the campaign scenarios where it's like one fleet's defending a planet, or like as Chaos, like you're invading the planet, and then a relief fleet comes in, and the amount of ships that you have in orbit around the planet at the end of a turn gets you points, and if you hit a certain number of points by the end of whatever turn, then you've won because you've landed enough forces on the planet.
Right.
Sort of deal.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So there's some really cool scenarios that you can go into it. Yeah, it's a fun game. Paul, you got any games played?
Nah, man.
Cool.
I've been just painting and just like doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, enjoying summer.
Yeah.
Summer's beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I won't apologize for not having any games played this
Nor should you.
past couple of weeks.
Beautiful is an interesting term with the last weekend.
Oh, you know what? I'll take oppressively hot.
40 degrees was pushing it, man.
Well, I mean,
I know.
it's not like I can do anything about it. Until I get my weather machine.
We could have just gone to your house and played Warhammer in the AC.
Yeah, true.
But we didn't. We went to a park.
I like the park.
Yeah.
I stopped a baby from getting hit by a truck.
That was
Wow.
hilarious.
Was it like a bassinet running down the street or
No,
something?
it was just a toddler playing with a balloon, and he like kept running into traffic, and I was like, "Hey, move the balloon over here." And then he like ran off and started just harassing other people in the park. He stole like a badminton racket and then a soccer ball. And...
I was imagining you kind of scooped him up in this kind of heroic fashion as the truck was barreling down.
Also, that happened.
Yeah. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And some other people popped his balloon, but then he stole their soccer ball and ran away with it.
I know. I love that kid. That kid had some real hustle.
Sounds like a real Dennis the Menace.
And the mom, 10 minutes later, the mom just comes screaming from the other side of the park to pick up the kid.
Not a run, but you know that like straight-legged mom walk when you're like, oh, I'm gonna get it, and he just like got picked up and like walked across Christie Pitts while freaking out.
Yeah, he was having a blast.
He was.
Yeah. So that was Paul's gameplay. He saved a child.
It's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And then we've got the league going on as well. So I'm actually paired up against Nick G here.
I didn't even look at who I'm
I
paired
think
up
Joey
with.
Dang or something.
Sure.
I don't know.
Makes sense.
But
Yeah, it's gonna be a throwdown.
Yep. Let's see how many orcs you can kill.
I hope it's all of them.
I don't know, man.
It's hard. Just bring strength 8. What do you have as strength 8?
I got a lot of strength 8.
All right.
Yeah.
You're good then.
What do you have the strength 8?
What do you want? I got a lot of stuff. I got a bunch of dreads. I mean, actually, the Leviathan's on strength 7. Got a bunch of dreads.
I know he lied to me last time we played.
It was less of a lie and more of a misunderstanding.
I know. It's
Yeah.
totally strength 8.
Totally.
Totally
Well,
strength.
the Daredeo is strength 8.
Yes. That's an Anvilus pattern autocannon, not a
Just a storm.
cannon.
Yeah. Storm cannon array.
Yes.
Storm cannon array. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm going to be able to do there yet, but I'm really hoping that it turns in my favor.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It'll be a blast.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first part of our podcast.
All right. Let's take a short break for some messages from our sponsors, and we'll be right back at you.
Hello, everybody. This is Adam,
And I'm Jay,
and we are in Counter Wargaming.
and we wanted to celebrate hitting our 1,500 subscribers and give back to all of you who helped us get here.
Super exciting. So we call this the 2,500 subscriber Forgebane giveaway.
That's right, because we're giving away a Forgebane box.
Woohoo!
But in order to give it away, we have to hit our 2,500 subscriber goal.
Makes sense. All right, so first things first. Share this.
Share the podcast with your friends.
Share our videos.
Yeah.
Share anything you want. So there you go. Multiple ways to enter.
Right.
Number 1.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Woohoo! That'll get you 1 entry. Number 2. Follow on Twitch for 1 more entry.
Also, you can support us on our Patreon campaign, and that'll get you 5 entries.
Wow. All right. And hey,
Crazy.
guess what? If you subscribe on Twitch, you get 5 more entries.
Damn. And lastly, for all of you who are listening to the podcast right now, go on and leave us a review, and we'll get you 1 more entry.
Bonus. Guys, this is a big thank you for all the support that you have given us over the last couple years.
Absolutely. Thanks to everyone out there for making this a wild ride for us. Hopefully we can give one of these boxes to one of you lucky people.
Sweet. Hey, remember to share, and we will see you at our next encounter. Battle Brothers Studios is a commissioned painting studio in Toronto, Canada. We want you to walk into the battlefield looking your best. So, if you're having trouble getting all your minis painted, or are in a big rush to get some stuff done for that next event, then let us know. Facebook.com/Battle Brothers Studios for a free quote, and inquire also about our 2018 deals. This year, running a 10% discount on any new release item from any miniature company. That's pretty cool, so send us a message.
G'day, how are you now? Tried to paint a mini the other day, realized my brushes were drier than a Saskatoon field in May. So I did what any reasonable man in his mid-30s would do, and I hopped over to thewarpainter.com to resupply. Thewarpainter.com is Canada's greatest hobby store for all things hard to find. Scale 75, Broken Toad, The Army Painter, and Valet Ho. All supporters of Encounter Wargaming get 10% off their first order with the code EWG10. They got you covered.
All right, we're back. So, you want to take us in?
Oh, I thought you were starting
Oh.
with we're back. We're back. So our main topic today is just taking the temperature of 8th edition, doing a little retrospective on the past year. I mean, I gotta say, just as a first thing going in, it's a lot better than 40K was at the end of 7th.
Yes. Are we at the end of? We're not at the end of 8th though.
No.
No. I'm just saying, like, by the time it was definitely time for an edition change.
Yeah.
It breathed a lot of new life into the game. Old tricks didn't work, old tactics didn't work, old army construction builds didn't work. It was basically building stuff from the ground up. I remember the first weekend, the first like open day that we had as a club, and everyone showed up, bought their indexes. Mm-hmm. Some of us had earlier access to those indexes, which was absolutely awesome. And it honestly, like, Index Hammer 8th edition was probably like my favorite 2-3 months of gaming in the hobby.
Was it 3 months?
Like June, July, August, and I
When did
think
the Space Marine come out?
I think it came out end of August, September.
Yeah.
So it was almost it was like a full summer of Index Hammer, which I think was a great idea on Games Workshop's part to like get used to the new rules mechanics and give you a little taste of how stratagems worked without being like, here's 50.
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to do with all those books? All the index books.
Well, you could buy them for $3.
Right, but like, you know, did GW just like, we're going to print these for a year and then that's it?
Yeah. They're gonna pulp them.
Yeah.
Like,
All right.
books is a very wasteful. Like, publishing is a terrible industry when it comes to stuff like that.
So I think one of the things we should focus on is to start is what were from a game designer standpoint, because that's why we brought Nick on for this one. Because he harps on game designers hard.
Yeah, you wait till he gets going.
From a game designer standpoint, what do you guys think were the goals of the game designers, Games Workshop, in designing 8th?
I think like the overriding thing was rebalancing the game. It felt like there was just huge disparities between armies. Like there were books that you were like, oh, you're playing the Orc Codex, you'll never win a game.
Right.
Like, enjoy that like weird distinction, but you've got one trick up your sleeve. It's a 2+ invulnerable that takes like a relic and 5 characters to get. It's gonna blow. I think it was like a big overhaul for the purpose of rebalancing.
Yeah. I think similar to, I mean, second time I'm going to bring it up, the like D&D 5e thing, right? Where they decided to reset to make it a simpler rule set so that you can bring in a larger audience, right? The biggest thing, so I played maybe 5 games of 7th, just with some friends back in St. Catharines, and it was a steep learning curve, right? I mean, like, don't get me wrong, 8th is still a learning curve, but the rules are simpler, and especially right when the index came out, they were simpler. The fact that you could fit the general core rules onto those 6 pages, right? That is a good thing.
Yeah.
That means that you have tight rules that you're kind of focusing on. You can explain them pretty quickly. That means, you can bring more people into the hobby. It's better for Games Workshop. It's better for the communities. I think it was a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to just pop in real quick, and we're going to open one of the beers that you brought. This is Yacht Rock by Stone City. It's a Gose, another...
Say it right.
Gose.
Thank
Another sessionable sour wheat ale with Mineola, lime zest, lemongrass, coriander, and pink rock salt.
There you go. That's what I was saying.
Come
Yeah.
on, Collective Arts. Get
So
your
that's
shit
from
together.
that's from Stone City in Kingston.
Yep.
It's all the only road in Kingston.
And
Yeah, might be
It
And
is
I think
Sunset
a
Street.
the only
Mineola
one that matters.
is a cross between a grapefruit and a tangerine.
Okay.
Huh.
I've been here before. It's a great little brewery.
Yeah.
Kingston's a small town, but it's got some serious charm to it.
Yeah.
And this place, Stone City. It's it's a nice place.
Yeah,
Your
it's great.
experience of Kingston is different than mine has been.
What's yours? Depends.
Yeah. Just going to jail.
Depends.
It's being passed around.
Yeah, Nick. Like, what do you think the goals were for when they kind of thought about 8th. I mean, you said that 7th was long in the tooth.
Yeah.
You thought that this was a breath of fresh air and that's something you were really excited for. What made you excited for it?
I think you guys covered most of it. Just simplifying it, making it easier. Just like it's one of the actual kind of issues I have with it now, and I'm not saying I'm hating 8th because of it, but it's one of the things that I have trouble reconciling. Is it did change it from very much a
This is exactly what a sour beer should taste like.
oh yeah.
See? It's not like, oh, enjoy your lemon juice, idiots. Thank you, Stone City.
Yeah, that is nice.
But it changed to be more accessible, so it was less of like an actual war game and more of a board game.
Right.
Just the way that positioning works. There's a lot more rules in 8th with how units interact with each other, which was kind of cool. And it's honestly just a total shift in tactics. Like, none of the old stuff works anymore.
Right.
And it was just bringing new life into a game that I feel had gone stale. I really liked how every army was basically using the same force org charts. I found that they're getting away from this now, which I think is going to cause some issues down the road. But they had the best of both worlds between formations and the old CAD, which was, you have your CAD, your battalion detachment, but you can also do the highly specialized detachments. As opposed to formations, which just got way too unwieldy towards the end of 7th. So I really like the battalion. The brigade is unnecessary, in my opinion. It's just whack. The Outrider, the Spearhead, and the Vanguard detachments are all super cool.
Yeah.
They're cool, and I understand why they exist, but the fact that they're usually only like, here's your one command point.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, they bumped everything else up.
Yeah, so it was just kind of a bummer.
Yeah. And we talked about that in the big FAQ one, where the bigger heavy hitter lists detachments we felt that they shouldn't have gotten the bump. It should have gotten a bump for taking the more smaller specialized detachments. But and I think Games Workshop met those goals for the indexes.
Yeah,
but
as soon as right out the gate, they were doing great.
Yeah. Then we had some problems, as you always do, and before the podcast, I think Paul said it best, and it's a mixed blessing. It's a double-edged sword. You got any metaphors for this type of thing?
Most good swords are double-edged.
Two-sided coin. Scimitars.
I like a
pretty
scimitar.
awesome, man.
Cutlass.
Yeah, but alright, so we got a cutlass, scimitar, and katana. Those are the ones.
Epee?
Do they?
It's more of a
an
point.
edge? Yeah.
I thought they had an edge.
Do they?
Rapiers have a point. Maybe rapiers have an edge. Someone will correct us on this.
You know what?
Every
I
time
don't-
we get a mistake, just hundreds of emails.
Oh,
Perfect.
just buried.
Perfect.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't know swords that great. I'm not a sword guy.
Two sides of every coin.
Mm-hmm.
Clouds have silver lining.
Mushroom clouds included.
I completely lost my train of thought.
Thing that I said before the podcast that was a good idea that I don't even recall.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Mixed blessing.
Totally lost my train of thought, guys.
I was
I'm
really
so sorry.
I was really looking forward
Yeah,
to hearing like a cool thing I said.
So I also like scimitars and cutlass.
Yeah, man.
Cutlass?
Cutlass. Is that the... All right, let's walk it back. What were we talking about?
I don't know. Look at the notes. God, what is in this beer? What time is it?
We were talking about the good and bad things. Well, we were talking about good. You said it, Paul said it best. The mixed blessing. Before, what did you say before?
I said they came out of the gate and they accomplished what they had planned.
I feel like you're going to go for
I
a
got
bad-
it.
okay.
I got it. Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword,
I'm leaving this in.
and that is that we as gamers are kind of acting as the beta testers for the game system.
Right.
Which is a great thing because at the same time you're like kind of involved in we're doing a podcast about this, man, and we care about this hobby. Lots of us do. We invest a lot of time into it, so it's really good to feel like you have a voice and to see problems in the meta get dealt with. Now we've talked about the issues on who has the loudest voice, and it's not the majority. It's the people who have the loudest voice, which is what I mean by a double-edged sword. So we're seeing the game kind of change and evolve, which is good, but it also meant that there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in the game where you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Why is the Chaos Leviathan... Sorry, why is the Archeron the best anti-air unit in the game?
Right.
The giant flamethrower.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, wanted to bring this up a little bit later, but I mean, it's the idea of like ludonarrative dissonance, right? And so ludonarrative dissonance means it's basically ludo, which is your gameplay, and your narrative, which is your narrative, being dissonant. So not having similarity, right? You're distracted, you're taken away from the gameplay because the thing that you're doing in a game sense is not realistic to what the world would portray, right?
Yeah. So
you do not use a flamer.
So let's say this.
Yeah.
Let's say this for later because I do want you to go on a rant later.
Yeah. Goose didn't get shot down by a flamethrower.
He definitely did not.
I don't know, man. The Soviets could have had flamethrowers in their MiGs because MiGs can't fly inverted, but he did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What a friggin' nerd.
I love Top Gun's a great movie.
It's Top Gun?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
What?
Guys, all right.
Paul.
I have seen...
Paul, it is a propaganda movie for the United States Navy that has 2 songs in it. Every single scene is either Take My Breath Away or Highway to the Danger Zone. There is no, soundtrack. It's just those two movies.
Turn off the recorder. We're watching it right now.
So... there's a lot of 80s blind spots in my movie viewing history, and recently some friends of mine found out that I've never seen Back to the Future.
Get out.
So,
All right, guys, we're going to take an 8-hour break, and we're going to come back to you.
So I was after the park, that's what, Adam found that out that day. He was like, what? That is bullshit. And, him and his wife and Sarah were just like, what the what is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
So,
what was your
Did
answer?
you watch it?
Yeah.
And?
I got a lot of thoughts about that movie.
All right.
Well, I'll save it for Inches and Cubes, the Back to the Future podcast.
Okay.
We'll do that next time.
Sorry, you were saying that the Archeron?
Yeah, so just little tiny things like that. For example, a lot of units, just full deep strike armies on first turn. Just weird things where you're like, this doesn't make any sense. And then throughout the course of the last year, we've seen a lot of changes to the game happening. And not just in terms of rules, but I'm going to touch on this later when we talked about Chapter Approved. But so we had Index Hammer. It was a great summer. I mean, last summer was a great summer. We did a lot of stuff.
Oh, man.
Dueling Grounds finally got the F out of Toronto.
Well, we don't need to... We're just happy that we got Sword and Board.
Yeah, and we got Sword and Board being all awesome. Really supporting the club. So we, as a club, we grew, and I think it's just because of 8th edition. And then the codexes started coming out, and we started with the Space Marine Codex.
Yeah, that was when that thing first came out. That was the first and last time I was excited about the Space Marine Codex.
I was jealous. I was very jealous that you guys got to play with all these cool toys. You got to press all these buttons, and all these magical things happened. And I'm sitting here with my Space Wolves, just re-rolling my dice.
But man, the shine has come off that apple.
Definitely.
Pretty well.
Yeah, and that's the first codex. Chaos, I think, was next.
Yeah.
And Chaos has held up a little bit better in terms of rule sense. And honestly, I think it's because of cultists.
Yeah.
I think it's 100% just because you have cheap screening troops.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That
changes that's one of the tactics in the game is now you need to have screening troops.
And I'm fine with Chaos doing that. What I'm not super pumped about is a Space Marine army where it's all right, scouts. That's
No, yeah. Maybe you you could reduce the cost of the Marine, or you increase the save of the Marine, or increase the durability of the Marine. Right? There has to be some balance because right now they're not worth it in either.
Yeah.
No,
so two things have really hurt Marines in this edition, and that's AP modifiers. Because 3-up save used to be great. Right? You're heavy bolter, come at me.
Yeah.
Autocannon, come at me. All these things is just nope, don't care. Mm-hmm. And now with save modifiers, all of a sudden getting hit with a heavy bolter, you have a 4-up save.
Yeah, that hurts.
And it just drops you because even if you're Primaris, you still only have 2 wounds. And then the wound chart itself.
Yeah,
the wound chart itself, I think, is probably one of the things that gets me the most. And I like how there's nothing that can't be hurt. I've never had a problem with las guns wounding a knight.
No.
You're fishing for those 6s, that's fine. But a heavy bolter shouldn't wound a marine the same way it wounds an Imperial Guardsman. And it just...
But it doesn't. I mean, like, I understand your point that it's still... Like, it is Killier. Everything was Killier. And that's what they said at the beginning, right? This is a Killier edition. Things will die. And I think that is a good thing. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I don't know. Things are dying too fast in certain regards, i.e. the Marine.
Yeah. Well, it's just like better example. Sister of Battle and a Marine side by side.
Right.
Marine should be tougher than the sister.
Right.
And unless you're talking about being strength 4...
Doubling them, yeah.
There's not a lot going on that's wounding the sister worse than a Marine. But that's just one of the cool things. And it was simplified because we went from a chart to just, is it half? Is it double? That's it.
I found that was one of the toughest things in 7th to kind of get my head around was, I mean, I know that it's like, is it 1 more or 2 less? And like that's when it kind of shifts. But that was a really tough part for me to come into the game and learn. Yeah. I always had to revert to the chart. In 8th, I never do. It's simple. It's like, is it the same? Is it less or more? Is it double? Yeah. That's it.
And it was totally new because the wound charts existed since like 2nd or 3rd edition, and it's gone unchanged. Mm-hmm. So this shift was brand new. But there's a couple things about that I'd like to see changed because like certain things like strength 6 is relatively useless. So strength 7, only in certain situations, and then strength 9 is kind of like, why are you strength 9?
Well, strength 9's pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of like big 8s that you need 9s for, right?
Now there is with Imperial Knights.
Yeah, but like strength 5, you're wounding on 3. Toughness 5, you're wounding on 3 with 9. Like it.
Yeah. That's my main point, right? Like a lav cannon hitting a plague marine,
right? It
should just kill it the same way that would kill a space marine,
right?
So it's just these weird things that, like you said, it does make the game more killy, and it is also a very shooty edition.
Yes,
very shooty.
And I remember when it came out, and they were kind of leaking the little bits of the game, the rules, back in like I think it was April, May, June, up until before release. And they made the big change to combat, right? So instead of having initiative order, they basically say you get into combat first, you go, and then it's like all chargers go first, and then it's starting with you back and forth. Mm-hmm. And people are like, well, combat's just gonna like wipe people out then, right? You're basically gonna get a full round to take out my unit before anything happens. Like, that does not seem to still be an issue.
No,
that's a big worry.
Because nothing has very few things have like the weight of attacks that they need to like completely destroy. But I mean,
I know.
But I think the thing that you've harped about, if they changed, I mean, I think we would all agree that in general, combat is probably a little underwhelming in the like ways that armies are built and kind of the way that
it's really tough to master.
I think
combat is much more about positioning and piling in,
using those 3 inches before and after you fight to do things to tie other people up. Absolutely, but you often harped on this before, where you say that falling back is something that shouldn't be an auto pass, right? And I think that would help too, because it just makes it too easy to be, just pull out and let everybody shoot at you.
Yeah, even if it's just a command point.
Mm-hmm. Or a roll, or I don't know. I mean, there's several ways you can do it.
Because, we talked about... one thing that we didn't mention about the goals was to streamline everything and completely get rid of universal special rules.
Yeah, that didn't work.
Right.
So that didn't work. So that brings me back to this point, whereas all of a sudden you have Dark Eldar units now that completely ignore the fallback thing. So if you get in combat, I think it's called a Shardnet.
Yep.
You roll off.
No, the Witch Cult has a special rule where you roll off, and the Shardnet makes the roll off. You roll a d3, I roll a d6, which is hilarious.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, like the universal special rules are like, wait, I need to know what's in your codex to be able to properly deal with it, right? Like, what's the special rule in your codex? What is this guy? Oh, here's a Shardnet.
What's that do?
As
opposed to like, oh, what's that got? Oh, it has like Furious Charge.
Yeah. Special rules got a little out of hand towards the end, but I feel like you could have used universal special rules and just put that in kind of like the keywords, because like we don't need to have. I mean, as much as we love saying it on the podcast, charnel dimension, teleportarium, pocket dimension. You could just be like, these guys have a pocket dimension, and then the special rule is just
Teleport.
deep strike.
Deep strike, yeah.
So you could just be like, yeah, these guys have this keyword
Right.
or this thing. So
And then you wouldn't be running into situations like, is this a redeploy or is this a deep strike deployment?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
you would be able to say like, well, it's
It says right here.
yeah.
and you're always going to have units and armies that have their own special rules, and that's totally fine.
So what about I mean, we started off with these really simple rules at the beginning, right? You look back at the index or in the basic rule book, 6 pages they could describe those rules in, right? I mean, it never really comes down to
Yeah,
that.
it's never that. Yeah.
No,
But
because
now-
like, give me the rules of consolidating. Like, give me how to draw people into combat or like how to consolidate.
I mean, it's technically in there, but like the nuance of it is not,
Yeah, like that was never communicated with those rules.
Yeah. But afterwards, right, they issue facts
Like
every
two-
so often.
I think it's 2 weeks
2
after
weeks after,
Codex is
yeah.
released, which
They
is
issue,
awesome.
Yeah, they issue facts, which now there's new rules in there. Not necessarily new rules, but there's new ways to interpret the existing rules. And then they offer chapter approved, and so now your rules are not in just one place, and they are not just one easy kind of accessible set. So that simplification, while still I think there from like a core standard, is just not as easy to access.
And this is something that I've said before. From an editorial standpoint, GW is monstrous. Just having like multiple sources, and sure, it is easy to get them, and like they collate them in chapter approved, but it's still like, luckily there is a thriving community around this, because otherwise
You wouldn't know.
you wouldn't know.
Because you can't. One of the things about 8th edition is like you can't. It's going so fast because of what we talked about. Lots of input from the community. You can't back out of it for a month and then come back in and be like, play game.
I mean, you still could. You can still play. You're just not going to be at the same. Like, there's going to be things
That's what I mean. You're gonna lose a lot of rules. Because I mean, imagine if you had disappeared for the big FAQ. And you know what? Not everyone is huge into the hobby, right? Like, I've played games at the club with people who love the game, love building, love playing. They just can't find the time. And you know, after the big FAQ dropped, I was like, actually, that's not how this works anymore. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you can't deep strike turn 1 and
Show me where that is in the rule book.
Yeah,
It's not.
Yeah,
half your power level has to be on the table. Like, what?
Where is that? It's in a different thing you had to buy.
Actually, you don't even have to buy it. You just need to download it from this URL. Here are the
So
18 characters.
It's a little unwieldy, but from I don't know how you feel from a tightened rule set perspective.
It's tough. I mean, I think the general parts of 8th are pretty tight, right? I like the idea that there are no rules that often go unused. I mean, actually, let me put this as a question. Do you think that there are rules in the game that are not used when you play?
Death to the False Emperor when I fight a non-Imperium army.
Situational rule.
Yeah.
But you would use it. Is there rules that you ignore because you're just like, it doesn't matter? Right? Even think about deployment, game setup, the ways of create terrain.
The terrain rules cover is. I've been saying this. I'm probably gonna get T-shirts made, but cover is broken. Like, it's trash. Cover is trash. And you can fight me in real life, like, if you want. But it's broken to the point where, like, even tournaments are like, it's just blocks line of sight.
Right.
Yeah, like, it's either too good, like putting a unit of 3-up armor guys in a ruin and then shooting them with bolters, and then they've all got a 2-up save all of a sudden, or it's no good when you're just blasting things with las cannons and cover doesn't even matter. Because cover to me was never about
stopping shots. It's about like hesitation or not being able to draw a bead on something.
And I remember like the 5th or 6th edition rulebook explained that, where like if you shoot through an intervening unit, whether it's friendly or enemy, the other unit gets a cover save because your soldier who's shooting is distracted or can't get a clear line of sight.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't even take the shot.
And that's what cover is supposed to represent. And I think it goes back to the whole, like, does this represent an actual battle unfolding?
Right.
And cover, it just doesn't feel like it. Like, I would honestly rather completely ignore area terrain, and just go with line of sight blocking, just because I feel it has a bigger impact on the game. Because I can shoot las cannons through a building at a tank on the other side, and that tank gets no benefit. So I'd rather that building just be completely opaque, and I can't actually target that tank.
And, this is the thing. We're raising a place where, it sometimes matters, but it doesn't matter. But it's just, what we're arguing for is a consistency, which doesn't entirely make sense, but from a rule standpoint, it does.
Well, then speaking of cover, there's also that super weird thing. I think it's Tyranids and another sub-faction has a rule where if they don't move, they count as gaining the benefit of cover.
Right.
But against Imperial Fists or Iron Warriors, they don't get that benefit anyways. It was some weird thing where it's if you're out in the open, you get the benefit of cover. You don't count as being in cover.
Yeah. So
somebody firing at you who gets benefits against somebody in cover doesn't get those benefits, but you still get the benefit of cover.
Yeah.
And it's what?
Yeah.
No, I know, and I think that's from when I look at things and identify the rules that.
Sorry, those aren't rules that aren't being used. Those are rules that are being confused.
Paul just dragged this into
I just got us right out of it.
I know,
right out of it.
Yeah. After getting us into it.
Yeah.
Paul, what's? Oh, Nick's not done his beer yet. But no, back to your original point. I can't really think of any rules that.
What else are we house ruling? I think something that we house rule as a club is that you have the Hogtown comp.
Yeah.
Right. That's you redefining the rules to think to play in a way that you think is better than the way that GW says you're supposed to play.
And I think and it's interesting you say that because GW in the latest iteration of their big FAQ has kind of come up with something similar. But for you who don't know, Hogtown Comp is basically your whole army needs to share at least 2 keywords, which means it needs to have basically Imperium and Space Marines, or Chaos and Heretic Astartes, or Chaos and Nurgle. Because you can abuse the game quite a bit. For example, taking 3 shield captains on Dawn Eagle jet bikes, an entire brigade of Imperial Guard, and 3 Blood Angels chapter masters.
Sure, man. That's not abusing the game if that's how the game is designed. What is this beautiful looking beer?
Don't drink that. No, don't drink that yet. So this is something that I picked up at the Sororns Farmer Market the other day. Farmers Market.
God, it smells terrific.
Just wait. It's I'll read it in a second. It's the Heartwood Farm and Cidery. Eve Goes Badass. Where is this from? This is it's Ospringe, Ontario.
Okay,
sure.
Yeah. So this is a cider that has cayenne pepper in it.
Oh.
Okay.
And it's interesting. I'm glad that we're sharing it because I don't know if I could drink a whole one, but yeah.
Well, it smells crazy.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I really like that.
There you go.
Whoa. Well,
yeah, it's heavy on the cider, on the note, on the tip of the tongue, and then it just hits you with that cayenne in the back of the throat.
Oh, that is wild.
I
wouldn't want a whole bottle of this, but this is definitely something cool to share.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Where were we before that?
I was just talking about comp.
Right. Yes.
And army construction for organized play.
So, do you think that what they did is enough?
We'll get into that later down the road.
All right.
But let's switch switch gears to something super positive, and that is the new support from Games Workshop for the community.
Yeah, they are engaging a lot more. This is a company that shut down its forums because they were like, moderation's hard. Let's burn it to the ground.
Or stop doing tournaments of any sort.
Yeah. Burn it down. Burn it all down. Shut it down. Mm-hmm. And they've decided that that's not a cool way to grow your community.
When do you think that started? Because obviously the lead up to 8th, I mean, when I think of this, having come in more recently to enjoying the GW experience and playing 40K, it was before 8th that I started getting into the Warhammer community website, kind of seeing what was coming. I back then when I wasn't on Facebook, I had to get back on Facebook because Nick made me go on Facebook to interact with the club.
It's the worst.
It's the worst. Anyways, when do you think they started with this? Was it 8th?
No, it was like at the end of 7th, like middle of 7th, they started getting back into it, and then their community, like the Warhammer community Facebook group, just started being better. And I think you can draw like a direct line back to blessed be his name, Duncan. Mm-hmm. Like his tutorial videos really kind of maybe proved that they could have a web presence that was benevolent.
Yeah.
And it's like funny because he was just a guy in the studio and they were like, we need someone to do this, and he's like, I'll do it. And now he's like Duncan Two Thin Coats mother, like,
yeah.
Well, they'll, like GWs have literal portraits of him up on the wall that people worship.
I mean, that's a whole different thing. But I really think that, like, they started engaging with the community at the end of 7th, and perhaps like getting ready for 8th in a much bigger way. And we've seen them make real efforts to not really change the player base, but like expand it. Mm-hmm. Like no one's having anything taken away from them, but they're looking for new players, and new players, like, one, they're fun to play. 2, bandwagons are like filled with excited people going to cool places, so like relax,
hop on.
Yeah.
So it would have been November, December of 2016 that they got their first Twitch account and started doing live streams. So I think that's when they first stared coming back on Facebook as well.
Right.
Yeah. We were just kids then.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean that's shortly after I think they switched CEOs too, right?
Yeah.
To the new guy, which I think was probably a pretty good thing because like GW as a company is doing very well. These days.
If you invested in 2015, you are doing great.
Yeah.
Bully for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's obviously they're just becoming a more modern company. They're embracing the way that people communicate. They're taking it'll get you.
Yeah. No, I breathed it in. Oh
yeah.
It's a good one.
You can't take a breath in through your nose while you're about to take a sip.
No, that's what I did. This son of a bitch got some real kick ass to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, there's mustard in that.
They don't tell you that it has cayenne pepper in it.
The guy, when I stopped by his booth, I walked by, right? I was just at the farmer's market getting a sandwich, and the guy says, we give out free samples. And I'm like, I'm there.
What is up?
Yeah.
Of what?
Yeah.
Polio? I'm in. Stab needle.
Yeah. But no, I just haven't.
It's called the vaccine.
Yeah. Stab needle. But anyways, so for the social media aspect, I mean, they're getting smart about it. I'm curious though. Do you think? I mean, it's got to be partially GW, right? The player base has increased a ton. I'm playing. I didn't play any of these. I didn't play D&D or 40K when I was a kid, but now I'm playing, right?
Yeah.
I know there's obviously a lot of other players who have come into the game more recently, either back to the game or into it for the first time. And I'm curious: is this a thing that Wizards of the Coast, or is that still who does D&D, or Games Workshop? Is this because of them? Or is this a cultural thing where people are becoming a little bit more accepting and they're embracing the nerd side?
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because Mr. Rogers has been in the news a lot lately. There's lots of documentaries about him.
I'm excited to see where this is going.
Yeah, so I recently read an excerpt on one of his books, and it was just more about society and how people interact with each other. And he was talking about video games, and he was saying like, they're cool because they allow people to like explore different fantasies, and it's a neat idea, but it really deprives people of that social interaction that even people who are not social, like nerds, even though we're totally social.
We started a cult.
We did start a cult.
Gotta be social.
Then he goes on in the next paragraph to start talking about Dungeons and Dragons and saying that like there is going to be a bigger need to have this creative gaming outlet that encourages people to get out there and be social and make friends and develop a community as a reaction to the proliferation of video games. Not bashing video games in any way, but it's literally like video games are awesome, they're fun, but they don't have that. I'm going to sit around and do this an evening with my friends.
Yeah, and you can almost use video games as a byword for like screen time.
Yes,
I think
yeah, very much
like
so.
that is something that this would have been the only like screen interaction that was apparent at the time. But
is this a push or a pull? Like, is this?
I think it's it's a complex system that has a lot of different factors happening.
Yeah, right.
Like, from GW's standpoint, I think they have realized the power of their IP. They've realized the value of that, and instead of allowing other people to control that, like THQ or whoever is making their video games at this time, they said, like, all right, let's get it in front of this, and like, let's not let THQ or whatever app games we're selling these IPs to control what our brand is. Like, let's take ownership of that, and then these things will generate money outside of our core business, as opposed to promoting the core business through those things.
But I think it's been a slow burn up to get to this point. Comic book stores have always been a thing, but it wasn't until the last 5-7 years that you've had stores that have had a dedicated gaming space, right? And I honestly think it's just because the people who grew up with this nerd stuff in the late 70s, 80s, and early 90s, like we did.
Yeah.
Now we have a little bit of disposable income.
Yeah.
And we're in the city, and now we can go to these places. And I think it started coming in, like I said, 7 years ago with Gen X, and then they started building up the store, and then I think we're kind of just riding a wave. I don't think it was just like boom, floodgates open. I think we built up to this point by providing a market for this place. And it's more than just the product. It's a market for a store like Sword and Board, and even Games Workshop down in Lawrence, which is one of the rare Games Workshops that has more than 2 tables you can go and play on, to really exist.
But and more to your point, I think also it is a cultural thing. Like, we just everyone's mind has been blown by the Infinity Gauntlet movie. Like, it's
No spoilers.
have you read Infinity Gauntlet?
No.
Oh, it's not. It's going to be great for everyone forever.
Great.
I just watched Black Panther, so I'm not caught up. I just read the comics, and I'm like, well, everyone's going to be mad. Because I know where you break this story off into 2 parts, and it's not going to be cool for people. But, yeah, I do think it is just a cultural, I won't say acceptance, because I don't think it was ever kind of ghettoized in such a way.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I think in the media that we consume, it was not going to use that term, but looked at it a different way. Nerds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And but I don't think it was ever like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also money talks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Money definitely does talk.
Yeah.
But it's great to see so many stores doing well, and places like the LVO and Warzone Atlanta selling out in 15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
No, I mean,
huge.
that's excellent. And, I haven't been in this long, but I do want to go to some of those bigger events. I want to go partake. I want to see. I want to take some painting classes. Yep. I want to, experience this hobby in its full sense. And it's really nice that we're able to do that in a much kind of larger capacity now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's... I think they did a good job with what they did with their social media presence. I hope that they keep being opinionated about how they do it, and I hope that they keep it in line, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could very much fall back into that terrible cesspool of places that we all know exist, right?
Yeah.
And we don't want that. I don't think most of us as a community want that. That's not a good thing for the hobby. And I hope they're opinionated in that. Push it forward, be progressive with this, and,
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. And and their support, like them having Warhammer TV, them showing up to events and being active. Like I was talking with Sword and Board about sponsorship for the Hogtowner, and Raph just goes, "Yeah, I'll email GW. Sometimes they send us random stuff for events," and it's like that's
really
that's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Like just that you can go ahead and do that. I don't know what we're gonna get if we get anything, but
It's also awesome that Raph would do it.
yeah, So just cool stuff going on that way.
Raph's the only friend of the podcast.
Best friend though.
There was another one.
No, I mean like officially.
Oh, I thought we made Tesla an official friend of the podcast.
No, I think we just don't like Edison.
Are they sponsoring us? Oh no. Oh,
Nikola
that
Tesla.
Tesla.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I don't. No.
We have met many enemies.
Yeah.
Just the two.
Mainly two.
Edison and P.T. Barnum.
Because they both killed elephants.
If you're a P.T. Barnum fan, find me. I'll fight you in real life.
It's like two things you're gonna fight now.
That's basically my entire Hogtowner weekend. Is walking around with brass knuckles pointing at people.
So then, I think it was November, December of 2017, they came out with Chapter Approved, which was a great thing. I'm really looking forward to this year's version of it.
Yeah. Sorry, if I may jump in quickly.
For
I
sure.
think another thing they did really well with their social media presence, and this may tie into this, is a schedule. And a schedule that is set and, for the most part, followed. Right? With the idea that quality is more important than hitting the scheduled date.
Yeah.
You know, as a person who works in software development, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. But it's the idea that...
As an end user,
Yes, yeah.
I disagree.
But I think that that's the thing, is that, you know, they put out a schedule, which means that people aren't guessing anymore when things are going to be coming out. They're not worrying, you know, am I going to get a codex update? Am I going to get a fact? Like, it's, you know, this is coming. Or something's going to happen. You know what? You may get just a couple rules changed in the chapter approved, but, you know, we're gonna take a look at it.
We're thinking of you.
Yeah, and I think that active scheduling, it takes the question out of it. They're just being smart about that.
Yeah, it diffuses a lot of like anticipation.
Yep.
And it keeps the game fresh, too, which is a huge thing, because I don't know if you guys remember this, but I might jog your memory here, and you might have different opinion on this. But remember in the rulebook missions, whoever finishes deploying first automatically goes first. Yeah, and then Chapter Approved came out and completely changed it.
Yeah, those were fun times, because I have an elite army, and that was great.
Yeah, it was cool to have an advantage.
You still get the +1.
Yeah, that's not an advantage. Slight.
Yeah.
So Chapter Approved is great because it breathes new life into the game. It adjusts point costs. But again, Paul's brought this up in the podcast before. I don't think the point cost changes are simply for rules balance. I think it's very much as well to drive sales or to stop people from buying Fire Raptors from China.
Yeah, there's no reason that a Fire Raptor should be like 50,000 points.
Right.
So it's just an interesting thing. But the smaller things, right? Like, oh yeah, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't pay for every heavy bolter you buy for a Sakaran. Or something like that, right?
Yeah, but it's just like points aren't like that's an economy that's trying to fix the economy by like dumping more pennies into it.
Oh, we just don't have a gold standard anymore, right?
I'm not getting into this on air. I do like having a currency tied to a physical thing.
Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's just the idea that it's a Bitcoin. Anyway. I got out, and I made some cash. Anyway.
I lost $15.
Yeah. Anyways, I did better than that. But, yeah, like, it doesn't... That's not a fix. Points costs aren't a good fix.
But, I mean, that's the only thing that they can do at a lightweight way to rebalance.
Well, this is the thing. If you have Chapter Approved, just rewrite a goddamn data sheet.
Yeah, and I would like that. I'd like to see that. I mean, I think that's probably going to happen when we talk about some stuff that's coming in the future. But points are easy, right?
Sorry, what do you mean by rewrite a data sheet?
Or like just
Change the rules.
Yeah, change the rules.
Like what rules?
I'm just saying, like, if
Wounds?
you have a broken unit, just rewrite new rules for it.
Terminators get 3 wounds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah?
Terminators have a new rule that blah, 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 blah. They ignore the first wound that's done to them.
Okay.
Like, you know, just something.
Yeah, okay. I was like, we're going to rewrite stat blocks.
Sure, if you want.
Yeah,
Like,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if you're going to have... Like, we all agree that Chapter Approved is happening. That's the way the world is. There's no reason to limit this just to point value changes.
No, and I don't think it... well, I don't know. I feel like maybe Chapter Approved might, though, or slight changes, and then new codices, because there's going to be another Space Marine codex, right?
I don't know that there will be. I think and do we want to move on to what happens after 2018? Is this a good segue?
No. Well, we got a couple more things to go over.
We're teasing.
So we had chapter approved, which basically tried to do a job of bringing all the indexes up to par by giving people one stratagem. You can hold off on your rant about stratagems in a second.
No, that's a good idea, though. If you're like,
Yeah,
again,
it was
if
a
you're
good
having
idea.
stratagems, this is a good plan.
Yes. What else was in chapter approved? New missions, which was absolutely
New
fantastic
missions.
to play. I loved all of the missions in chapter approved are way better than the rule
That's a
missions.
great idea. Like,
I'm really looking forward to November of this year when we get 12 new missions again. It's gonna be awesome.
Chapter approved is like that's like the, you pay for a new skin to your character on a video game, right? You're getting I got a new relic, I got a new stratagem, got a couple new things. Like, you're paying for that skin, right? It's a little bit extra for the game.
my Fortnite avatar now looks like David Lee Roth. Awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah. In-game purchases, chapter approved.
Oh, frig. We're beta. Oh my god. That is what they're doing. They're doing microtransactions.
Yeah.
We're beta testers. Oh no! Oh! Through the...
Little technical difficulties partnering this.
Just Paul flying into the radio tower. But it was interesting because chapter approved didn't actually change that many rules.
No.
Compared to the big FAQ, now that changed a bunch of rules and a bunch of the way different mechanics work.
Why have those two things be different things?
Because I think it's just pacing out a schedule so you can understand what's going on in the community and change rules and then adapt and then change them more often. If you're doing it once a year, that's not fast enough. Not when you have codexes coming out 2 every month.
Sure.
Right? You need to be like...
But they're not going to keep that pace up.
I think they will. I think we'll see.
No.
I think they're doing pretty good. I don't know if it's going to be that pace, but I think they're going to... I don't know.
There's going to be a release. Like, there's going to be new stuff, but you're not going to get, like, entirely new books.
All the people they've hired on to do this, what are they going to do? Sit around and, like, I don't know, paint models?
I think we're gonna see a chapter approved every single year,
I mean, like, I'm down for it for
and a big FAQ every
2
single
or 3
year.
more years, but eventually I'm just going to be like, this is too much. I've spent too much on, like, supplemental books.
That's why
GW loves it. They love it.
Okay, so that's, I guess, the first year of 8th.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's not 8th anymore.
It's just...
It's just Warhammer 40k.
Yeah.
There's no additions.
No.
No gods, no masters, no additions.
Begs
No
the
gods, no
question.
heaven.
Yeah, like, is there going to be a 9th? Or is this just an iteration on top of this for the foreseeable future?
Well, it's just like what people are doing with Age of Sigmar with the new edition, right? They're just calling it 2.0, but no one's actually calling it 2.0. It's just like the General's Handbook 2018,
Right.
which is going to change the way that some things go. Right. I really need to play a game of that game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you need to get your Deepkin army. And then what army are you
No,
going
I
to play
want
in
to
Age
do
of Sigmar?
the 2 spoopy for you army. I want to do all the
Oh,
ghosts.
you want to do the death?
I want to do ghosts.
The
Halloween.
There's a guy on Instagram who does an amazing Tomb... Is it Tomb Kings? Or the old one with,
Yeah.
like... kind of like the mummies, and he does this crazy amount of just conversion on it. Beautiful gold. Like, it's... Yeah, I think it's in Grimson. Check him out. He's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to do like a ghost army because I love that executioner model. I mean, I am if I get it, I'm pulling all the spooky guys off them, and like that is one thing that has to go on those models. Where it's like, look how many spooks there are. Ooh. It's like, listen, guys, you don't add more ghosts to a ghost model to make it more ghosty. Like,
I think it's exactly what you do.
well, that's what they did, but those things gotta go, man. Those things suck. Like,
De-ghost it. Or de-spook it.
yeah, you have to come in and you throw out your trap and you get Egon to like put them away. It's just too many ghosts on those models.
I agree.
Not a pentagram
No.
and a line of salt.
I mean, I just sleep in a salt ring.
Yeah, it's probably for the best.
Yeah.
That's why he has a salt lamp.
All right. So 2018. What happens after 2019?
That's this year. Well, first of all, We're still waiting on codexes. The Space Wolf and Orc player.
You're gonna get them by the end of the
I
year.
know. I'm super excited for that.
I'm excited. I'm really worried based on some of the rumors I've been hearing that it's just going to be like the Blood Angel, Dark Angel thing for Space Wolves, which is not what I wanted.
It's always been like that, though.
Yeah, but like they have an opportunity. Like, so if the Space Marine Codex is so outdated, right, and so irrelevant currently in 8th, doesn't it make sense to start with the Space Wolves to do something new on that?
You'd think that, and then you look at the Death Watch Codex.
Yeah, these.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get a couple cool, like, everything's going to be cool. We're going to get some great new models to use. They're going to rebalance some things. They're going to play with some stuff that I haven't brought out before.
I don't think you're gonna get a lot of new models, my guy.
No, not new models. I mean, new models to play with.
You can use your bolters in combat as pistols.
Don't even true grit me.
You want a true grit? You'll see true grit.
Don't even. We're not going to get Russ, which is really too bad.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with no friggin' Primarchs.
But you are going to get new stuff.
Yeah! I actually don't know.
I think you will.
We'll see.
I think that so 2019, once all the codexes are out, they're going to start getting committed to the old school the 7th edition Triumvirate boxes are going to come back in a big way. And I really think that you're going to see more campaign boxes. Because those things were really cool. That was like the last cool thing that 7th did.
I think I disagree. I think we're going to see some of that, but I really think they're just going to bring a 40k up to a point where all the codexes are out and exist, and then they're just going to bomb it like they do Sigmar with just full model releases.
But like, what full models are you?
Like Death, Beastclaw Raiders are all new. Ioneth Deepkin, completely new. There's so much new stuff. Sylvaneth, completely new.
Yeah, because they blew up the world.
Yeah, but from a non-fluff perspective, I think what the game plan is to just bring everything up to date, and then they can just be like full model line release.
Nah,
Full model line release.
I don't see them doing that.
It's just it'll be such a cash cow for them. Because like we were talking about Fire Dragons just being way out of date and Chaos Space Marines being way out of date, to just bomb out a full army release start to finish, I think that's what we're going to see.
Like, I would be impressed, and I would like happy to be wrong, but I really think that you'll get those like large kit redos, but it's not going to be like, hey, there's a new Eldar Codex. It's going to be like, hey, there's a new Eldar campaign, and like here's the model release for that.
So you think it's going to be very much like 7th was towards the end?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You feel like if that was the model that detracted from 7th.
But that was the last thing. That was what pumped life back into 7th.
But it contributed to the bloat, right? It's what added the formations. It's what added the weird stuff with Blood Angels and
Yeah.
right.
That's always the tough part, right? If we go back to that idea of like tight design, how do you inflate while keeping your core game tight?
Well,
It's the same idea about adding new rules, adding new special rules and stuff.
this is the thing. You can't. You pick one.
I don't know. I feel like it with good game design. I think you can. I'm not saying it's easy, but they're also a business. Making and selling models makes money. I just think that they're also of the idea that keeping a good player base is also going to make you money.
Yeah. I do think that eventually we're going to see like the regular Space Marine go, and Primaris size Marines are going to be all there is.
Yeah. That's one interesting thing we didn't even talk about on this podcast so far when we talked about 8th edition. Was they actually move the fluff forward?
Yeah, and like
that's huge.
I think you'll see like anytime that we get a Primarch or a Demon Primarch or like a new Boob Snake is coming, dude. There's gonna be a campaign release around that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Just because like that's a cool thing. They sell a couple extra books, Black Library gets involved. Like
yeah.
Because we're not just talking about GW. We're talking about Forge World. We're talking about Black Library. We're talking about GW. Those things now, more than ever, are like working as a juggernaut.
Yeah.
So let's do a little reflection. We've hit the end and talked about the future. What are some things that you would like to see from a game perspective improved over the next year.
I don't want flamers to be able to hit planes no more.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
If you're moving supersonic, flamers can't hit you.
Yeah.
So our friend Val Heffelfinger a while ago postulated an interesting composition restriction for the game that I actually really like, and I would love to see this happen. I don't know if it's going to happen, but first of all, I'd like to see a total rebalance of how command points work.
Yeah.
But also going into a game and having to pick your stratagems ahead of time. Being like, you have a book that has 50 stratagems in them. I know there's not 50. Maybe there's 25 to 35, depending on how big the book is. Pick 7. And that's all you can use during the course of the game.
Even that, I think, is...
That's like a deck crafting kind of thing.
Not really, because everyone has access to all of them.
It is literally deck crafting, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But it's no different than... Because it'll just be interesting, because you're going to see armies built around cool interactions of stratagems. I like how stratagems are. I don't like how easy command points are to get with soup composition.
Right.
I don't like how the command points make absolutely no sense in terms of their economy.
Like, it's just that there's so few of them that there's no, like, half command point. Like, I think, because I've meditated on this, I have just gone into the woods and looked at the lake, and visions have come to me. And I think it's because the number of command points is so small that how do you make something that's worth 1 command point that's a little bit stronger but not 2 command points? Like, how do you do that?
Right, and for example, like Space Marines, for example, when you think about it from a fluff standpoint, should have more stratagems up their sleeves than the Imperial Guard do.
Yeah, and provided that you're running Gilliman, you can do that.
Yeah, I don't know. More stratagems, what? More that they can use, or not more that they can choose from?
More that they should be able to use in the course of the game.
Yeah, I agree from that.
Like, elite armies should be drawing on stratagems more than horde.
I mean, I'm like, my elite army consistently has 8 command points, I think, that I run.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at guard armies or soup armies with like Kurov's Aquila, and they're basically at 20 something plus on total command points they can use throughout a game.
Mm-hmm.
How am I supposed to play
and
against that?
You don't. Like, it just sucks.
But
you know, horde armies are the best
for that aspect. But yeah, I mean, I would just like to see something a little bit different there. I understand that elite armies have big, strong units; they can do a bit more. I think that that's one aspect of balance that I would like to see changed. You know, is that like kind of what you're getting at, right? Space Marines should be using. Maybe they have the same total number they can select from, but they should be using more. They're a tactical like force, right?
I mean, this is like a radical overhaul, but just change the entire dice system to D8 instead of D6. And
where do you buy a D8, Paul?
GW will be happy to sell it. I promise you.
No, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the whole idea that it's a D6, you could do 2D6. 2D6 is a great system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love that. I would love a 2D6 system for stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like that whole aspect is, and your idea of the Hogtown comp, right? The idea where you were doing it partially because of fluff, but also partially because of balance. It's easier to balance and make sure that things are fair when you have your army has a kind of set number of things that it can do, and there are bad spots or like, you know, blind spots to that army as well.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be able to spackle over, like, you know, the flaws with just cultists. You shouldn't be like, oh look, conscripts, they'll fill in every hole.
But that being said, and the thing that I've often, you know, tried to convince Nick and probably you of is that I want to make a really cool Chaos Soup warband that is a bunch of things that are just fighting together, and it's going to look awesome on the table.
Yeah.
But it's tough to do because the rules, it's easy to break.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to be like, I'm going to take the best from this, and I'm going to fill it with the best from that, and I'm going to get a whole bunch of command points, and I'm going to have a really tough army to fight against.
Yeah, and, like, I think the thing that no one's talking about is what you're also trying to combat is the pay to win.
Right.
Like, that's, like, the soup composition allows you to be like, I'm just going to buy the best things. And sure, they are going to be very expensive money-wise, but I make more money than you, so like now this experience is a lot better for me.
Right.
That comes with a game that's, has physical representation things. We're not going to defeat capitalism. I swear to God, I don't know why I'm on such like a rip today. But I'm getting all messed up on socialist comic books.
Yeah, so like the point of the Hogtown comp is to try and push it towards a more fluffy way. And like people will get like really up in arms about the restriction, and you're like, sit down and think about it for a second. So for example, you can run demons and Chaos Space Marines in the same list. You just can't have demon stratagems pulling from. I think there's another one in there. There's a black German lager that we should get to before the stout. But what doesn't make sense to me about command points, and I think an easy fix for it, would be you have to keep your command point pool separate. So if you're going to take a Custodes detachment of, and I'm just going to go to this just because it's an easy thing to hammer on, 3 shield captains on Dawn Eagle jet bikes.
They get to use their 1 supreme command detachment.
Command point.
Command point.
And if you take a brigade of Imperial Guard to go with that, you can only use those 12 command points that you've generated for that detachment. You can't. You'd be like, all right, cool. You want to re-roll a dice for your dude's armor save? That's the only command point you have for that army. Mm-hmm. And I think that would fix it because it doesn't make sense. You're not. Think about command points like the old Dawn of War video games, right? Where you were holding a point and you were generating requisition points. You're not sharing that between them. The Imperial Guard has a logistics system. It has lasgun packs. It has. What are the animals that they have? Groks.
Yeah.
Hauling ammunition up to the front lines. They have field medics. That's what command points represent. You're not going to be able to jam a lasgun pack into a hurricane bolter and let it go.
Yeah. Or I bring a brigade of guard, and then I take my knights, and I give my knights extra stuff because my guard are there.
Exactly.
My guard.
I agree. I agree with you 100%.
That's actually a really good fix.
Yeah, and they've kind of moved towards that in the last big FAQ, right? Where it's like everybody in a detachment has to share a keyword, right? You can't mix and match detachments anymore, so you can't just be like, okay, cool, I've got 1,500 points for a 2,000 point army, and now I'm going to take a dude with Kurov's Aquila, a Nevasaur assassin.
Yeah,
all that stuff. So this is. Ooh, it looks good. Store cold, enjoy fresh. This is the Napanee Beer Company. It's a Blacklist Black German Lager.
Oh yeah,
a deliciously dry, easy drinking black lager. From the heart of a small town, Ontario, comes the Napanee Beer Company, an award-winning brewery driven by passion, dedication, and imagination. I don't care about their promise. I wanted to hear more about the beer.
Nope. You ain't getting that. Just more about the company.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where GW pushes the battery idea, the idea of stratagems. I think it's a great addition to the game. I think it's really cool to be able to press buttons and play things outside of my normal kind of set way of playing, right? It's nice to be responsive. It's nice to have a little strategy, something up your sleeve.
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, I think they could do that a lot better. And, I don't think we're beta testers. I think we're playing the final product. I think they're just being really good about adjusting that to our needs, right?
Okay.
It's this agile idea of... It's good.
Oh, it's so
Agile.
good.
This guy.
It's not quite a stout. It's just...
Oh, yeah, that takes it back just a touch.
Oh, that is nice after that. Because that
How many peppers are in this?
yeah, the Eve Goes Badass was like, oh, this is really neat. And then I was like, holy shit, this is...
Yeah, I gotta drink
This is really spicy. And it's already hot.
Yeah.
This thing keeps going, eh?
Yeah.
This black lager, it's nice.
Yeah. Where was I going with that?
Command point batteries.
Command point
it's
batteries.
nice. You're right. I do love stratagems.
Right.
I love building an army around them.
Right.
I love finding the combos on them.
Right.
They're a lot of fun. Great addition to the game.
Yeah.
Command points need to be reworked.
I think the point that I was getting at was that the way that GW is doing this is with an agile perspective, where they are releasing something and they're getting feedback, and then they're refining it, right? They're doing it at a larger cycle than normal, but the fact that they're doing that is awesome. That's how a lot of things these days are kept in line and kept modern with people and their needs, right? You constantly go back and you do a retrospective. You review the things that you're looking at. You ask, what have we done well and what are we going to do better? And then you do that, right? And if you don't ask that, you become stale and obsolete. And
So what are your fixes for the game? What would you like to see? He said no flamers hitting flyers. I said command point changes.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. It's tough for me to say because I haven't played. I've only played with an index, right? I don't know what it's like to play with stratagems. I can only imagine the amazing world you guys must.
I know
be
what great problems we have.
Yeah, I just but I would love to. I think I need a bit more perspective before I can actually speak on that. But
no, the game as a whole, not just on stratagems.
The game as a whole, I'd like to see them move forward on that kind of command point balance idea. There are certain little tweaks in certain rules, like the idea of falling back. I would like to see them, address things like knights being able to hit things in second floors of ruins. The whole idea of multi-purpose terrain. And I feel like the whole idea of terrain itself is just, it's always been a blind spot for GW. They've never really addressed that or spoken really strongly about how this should be done.
It's tough.
It's because it is largely a DIY product.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's why AOS has so many terrain kits that come out, because they're like, this is how this thing works.
Yeah.
Like, that's... Do you have any questions? Refer to the data sheet.
Yeah. I'd like to see some differentiation, right? I'm starting to understand, again, coming into this really late, I start to understand why the Marine is the standard. It's not the gold standard, it's the standard.
Mm-hmm.
There is no gold part about it. It's actually pretty crappy. It's just,
It's too many points for one wound dude.
Yeah, but everything is based off of that, right? You're either more or less expensive than the Marine. Like your idea of comparing it to the missile launcher, right? That's how you compare your points. I would just like to see, and I really hope they do this with the Space Wolf Codex, is I want to see them go outside the box. When I talked about the Wolfen being my favorite unit early on, it's because of the rules and the way that I get to interact with it that makes it fun. And I just hope that they do that a bit more with some of the other units they're going to bring into it.
Well, it's funny from someone who plays an index as well with the orcs. They were able to just nail the feeling of the orcs with the index so well. Just the faction special rules in the index, right? Using your mob size as leadership. What's the one that you love so much? Oh yeah, just rerolling charges across the board for everybody.
That's crazy good.
Yeah. So like orcs, I'm really excited to see what they do because I think all they can do is make it more flavorful and kind of just fill up some of the gaps that they have.
And you're already good. You're just going to get more good.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Well, it'll be interesting because James,
But what gaps?
like no shooting. Like I can't take down a flyer to save my life. Can't take down a flyer, and there's only certain builds with the Orc Codex that do well. When you look at codexes like the Eldar, Dark Eldar, Chaos. I'm not going to talk about Space Marines, but there's a ton of other codexes. There's multiple builds that are out there doing super well. Orcs only do well if you just do boys and mech guns. Right? Like, that's what's like being the heavy hitters in events. And I would love to see truck boys and just armies of bikers and storm boys and seeing a little bit more dynamic army builds.
Yeah, I think let me take back what I want. I want that. I want to be able to use different models too.
Yeah.
I've got models that I've built that I'm like, I just don't want to, like, they're fun, but like they're just going to get swept off the table.
Yep.
Right? When am I going to use my blood claws? I'm not going to. I want to be able to hobby and expand this army out with, not just because I want to build those models, but because, hey, after this chapter approved or after this release, they're kind of good. Let's use them, right? Maybe these ones go down a little bit, but, I like that balance. I hope that and that's a good thing for GW. I'm going to buy more models. I'm going to buy a full army because at one point in time, each part of this was good.
Yeah. I'm never going to buy another Tactical Marine box set in my life.
There's there's going to be some life breathed back into Horus Heresy soon, and you're going to be right back in it.
I mean, we'll see.
I was thinking about this today. If Horus Heresy goes 8th edition, Tactical Marines are going to be super important.
Yeah, if Heresy goes 8th edition, I'm right back in. But, like, as it stands now, playing 7th edition rules, I'm just like, this is... I don't like it.
It's the only place you're going to be able to use your regular size Marines. Otherwise, it's going to be Primaris and New 40k eventually, right?
I mean...
Well, retcon it to Primaris were in the Heresy as well.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Who's right after? Yeah, anyways.
They're retconning it so that Armigers are in Heresy, which will be interesting. You didn't see that?
Yeah, I saw that. That's a good idea.
I mean, it made sense.
Sure. Knights are old.
Yeah.
Heresy's old. Frig off. Just play with your friggin' models.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, that was just a hour-long bitch fest, I guess.
No, I think that, looking back at it, though, were your expectations of 8th, the goals that you thought, right? You 7th ended, you felt like you needed that breath of fresh air. Did it meet it? Are you still excited? I know you said this earlier that you might not be. Are you excited right now?
100%. And I think for me it was just finding a different way to play. The Orcs breathed a lot of life, going from that shooty, sit back and shoot with the Noise Marines to all-out assault, balls to the wall, get in your face, put pressure on people. Just completely changed the way I play. That might have just been on me, but really breathed a lot of life back into 8th for me. It can get boring and tedious. A lot of the shooty armies I find are just sit back and shoot across the board, especially with line of sight blocking terrain. Paul does have a point there where you're just like, I'm going to camp this fire lane, and the minute you poke your head through there, I'm just going to blow you away. There's some issues that need to be fixed. It's a long way to go, but yeah, it's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. What about you?
Like 50-50, man. Like the range that I like to collect and paint is the Space Marine range, and there's no conceivable way where I'm going to be buying more Space Marine stuff because it doesn't jump out to me.
The Leviathan.
The range
next to Pedro Cantor.
The army that I love to play is the Necron army. That's super fun, but I don't have a ton of fun painting it. So it's like So I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place.
But did 8th live up to your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, it cleared the board for a little while, but now I feel like we've got kind of the same gum in the works.
Right.
It's just new. Yeah, it's new and different gum in slightly different works.
Yeah. I think it was a good addition to come into. It's tough, right? I jumped into the club and playing it at a more social level at the same time as 8 started. I think it's been very helpful for that transition.
Yeah.
I don't have to. I still don't know all the rules. I haven't played all the armies yet, but it's easier when I do. Right? It's a lot easier. That hurdle is just.
There are a lot fewer gotcha moments.
I find there's way more because
Really?
if you don't know your opponent's codex and you don't know every single stratagem in there, like playing Phil when I'm playing Orcs and I'm like, I'm gonna shoot that venom with I can't remember what it was. One of the few things that the battle wagon, I think it was battle wagons with big shoes. He goes, cool, it's -2 to hit. I'm like, cool, I can't shoot you, and I just wasted all the shots on that tank.
That brings up a good point. The thing I wanted to talk about is, so we've talked about things, how they've changed throughout the game, right? They've been agile with responding to issues. What do you think are the lingering issues in 8th? Things that have existed or have been identified as problems but have not been addressed.
Flamers hitting flyers. So, harping on that just because it will never click in my head. There is no way you can explain to me how that works.
Ludonarrative dissonance.
Yeah.
The fact that something being harder to hit makes a plasma gun more dangerous.
Yep. Yep, I agree 100%.
Is that thing behind a mist? Oh, it's twice as hot.
Yeah, for sure.
Or like the plus minus modifiers I like, but I don't like how it interacts with some rules. Like for example, Tesla or Death the False Emperor, right? Just because I'm suddenly hitting on a 5-up. I don't understand why that's making this thing. Like, you should be fishing for those 6s. That 6 is supposed to be something special, and the 1's supposed to be something special.
The exploding hits actually makes more sense to me, where it's like, oh, we've got an advantage now. Like, we have higher ground. Like, we're able to bring these like effective weapons, like more effectively. But I don't think that those bonuses should be lost. Like, I think, you know, if it explodes on a 6, it explodes on a 6. If it overheats on a 1, it doesn't overheat on a 2. Like, those things I don't think should.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it only should be bonuses.
What about the whole idea that, and they may come back to this, but, you know, Paul, is it Imperial Fists? You get to ignore cover, and you look at some of the new equivalent of chapter tactics and some of the like Eldar, Dark Eldar, right? Like, the bonuses that they get are
far and away.
Well, and they're across the board too. That's one thing that hurts the Chaos and Space Marine Codex alike. Is it went from infantry, bikers, dreadnoughts to just screw it, everybody.
Right.
No, it's like not everyone has that stuff. Let's just go all the time.
Right. Or, you know, you have something super amazing, like a -1 to hit. Well, not even super amazing, but just good, like a -1 to hit, or the Ultramarines, you know, and no one else is going to use anything else. Well, maybe the Salamanders, but like it's just this idea where there are balance is a thing that is strived for, but you're never going to achieve that. And it's fun to have a variety of aspects, but each aspect should be a valid choice.
Well,
I agree. I agree with.
There's no monetary reason to like bring balance to the Space Marine Codex, because you're giving rules to the Bretonnian players at the end of Fantasy, where it's just like, you've had this army for 1,000,000 years. You're not going to buy anything new. You're going to buy 1 or 2 new kits. So
I feel like that's a bad excuse to not give a.
I mean, I'm not into it, but I'm just saying, like, there's less of a financial impetus to do this,
Right.
But overhauling the range and, like, you know, crypto sneaking in, like Primaris, crypto relaunch of the range,
Right.
That's going to generate more cash in the long run, I think.
Right. What about the ideas of like the -1 stuff, right? Where you can get against armies where you're getting -2 to hit, and then orcs are just not hitting.
Yeah.
Is that even fun to play against? Like, how is this still a thing? I mean, I think there was a lot of rumors back when probably the Big Fac came out, where they're going to get rid of it. They're going to readdress some of those kind of bonuses that you could get from that.
Taking things away from players makes a bad game. Like, taking abilities away from people sucks.
Yeah, but you can always cap it out, right? There's always stuff like that where you're just like, this confers a +1 to your invulnerable save to a maximum of 3-up.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you did, like, this confers a -1 to hit to enemy units to a maximum total penalty of -2. So even if you move with heavy weapons, you're firing at somebody that's hard to hit, and they pop a stratagem, doesn't matter, it's only going to be -2. I'm kind of okay with that.
No, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So when you take those abilities, like just the ability to affect the game from someone,
fair enough.
that sucks. That feels bad.
Oh, so not taking away the person who's getting the ability.
Like, actually, so like that's why I don't think that your -1s to hit should stop your special rules, or it should make weapons more dangerous.
Yeah.
Unless it expressly says this is what it does.
Yeah.
There's a Necron mind control gun hurdy psychic power now, and his gun blows up more easily. Like, just nonsense like this.
Yeah. Speaking of, I'd love to see more nonsense in the game. Shenanigans, random stuff happening.
I do love my shenanigans. That's why I love the Necron army. So many shenanigans.
That's why I love the orcs. So many shenanigans. That's why I love the Burner Bomber. It's not competitive, but when it blows up on a 4-up, and everything within 6 inches takes D3. It just takes 3 mortal wounds. Dude, that's awesome.
Satan bomb.
Yeah.
It's like, it's got 3 wounds left, and it just beelines. It's like, this thing blows up on a 4.
Yeah, just fun things like vehicles blowing up on like even a 5-up rather than a 6. Right? Just more mayhem and chaos would be just great in terms of the game, especially with like command points, right? Where it's like, the vehicle blew up. No, it didn't.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Guys, I order you not to blow up.
The guy just finds that switch, like, the non-blow-up switch, and just hits it at the right time.
And there's so many rules that are like, this cannot be rerolled for any reason now, that it's not out of the realm of possibility to be like, yeah, it's just, it blows up, and you can't affect that roll.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more of that as well, because one of the things that does bug me a little bit is the pure amount of rerolls in the game, where it's like luck, I find, has kind of really gone out the wayside.
Well, this is what I was saying a couple episodes back about like the Space Marine Codex. Re-rolling everything is not a way to make that fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want fun.
But even when like, you're firing a las cannon at a tank that you need to blow up, and you roll a 1 to wound, and you're like, just re-roll it. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's like, well, no, that's a game swinging moment. Like,
Right.
It's kind of important that happens for the purpose of the game. So
There are times, you only get one of those per
Yeah.
turn or
Phase,
whatever.
yeah, it'll be. I don't know. Just I really like the re-roll rule, because sometimes things don't go according to plan, and luck is just so bad. But at the same time, it's just a weird balance. Like, I wouldn't change it, but it does add a weird thing. Like, if things are going really, really well for you,
Just let me use 2 command points to to stop people from using things. Or, like, let me spend a command point to make you spend an additional command point to do that. Like, let's get
you should play Dark Eldar.
Yeah, we should get weird about it.
I think it's 3 to stop people from doing things.
Yeah, hilarious. Just
Counterspell.
Yeah, shenanigans.
Yeah.
2 blue.
Yeah, I would like to play a Dark Eldar army at some point, just to see. I think they did a really good job with that.
It's that codex is a bucket of fun to play, man.
Yeah.
Like, play against.
Yeah.
It's a really fun army.
Yeah.
Because you get to kill a lot of dudes. Killing any Eldar means a lot more than killing a man, because they feel things more intensely. But some stuff is hard to kill, so there's a sense of accomplishment. It's a fun army to play against.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I like where 8th edition is going.
Mm-hmm.
There's some mechanics that I'd like to see change, and I kind of hope that they have the mindset of bringing it back to an actual war game, make it feel like that. The more realistic war game.
Oh yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Facings? Is that what you want?
No, but like Deep
Blast
Strike.
markers?
Deep Strike just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you have to be 9 inches away. Why? We're Space Marines. I'll friggin' land on top of the dudes. With
Yeah,
a
it's
drop
way
pod.
it's way safer.
Yeah,
Like,
just a couple of things, but no, it's generally positive. I mean, it's easy to harp on the negatives because that's what we experience. But yeah, I mean,
we're sitting here talking about
Yeah.
it. That's a pretty big positive right there.
I don't think I've played a bad rulebook mission. ITC stuff, I've been on the record before. I dislike how that scored. I don't like how it's played. But rulebook missions, I like. I always feel when I'm playing a rulebook mission, I have a chance at winning. And it just feels like the game to me.
there's some like Maelstrom missions that you're just like, no, absolutely not. This is garbage. Like, this has sucked. This has been a bad time. Thank you very much.
But any final thoughts before we wrap up this main section?
I think they've done a good job. I think generally this is a good thing. I haven't experienced all the previous editions. I just want to see them do new things. I want to see them keep the core values that they've set with this of simple play, bringing people in, making community important, and I want to see them show me something new while keeping it simple and just surprise me.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I want to read more. Like, when the Necron Codex came out, there was a lot of moments where I was like, "What? I can do this now?" And like, more of that. More just insanity.
Yeah.
Shenanigans. Shenanigans are great. Mm-hmm. As long as everyone has some shenanigans, it's awesome.
Yep.
More shenanigans.
All right. It's
Fun time.
And to go with this fun time, we have a very fun beer. Paul, I'll let you introduce that one.
Alright, so this is Prodromus. After being mocked for not enjoying flavored beers, strong beers, or stouts, I found a graham cracker chocolate chunk caramel bar stout that is 10% alcohol. So
Paul, if you weren't coming here with this beer, would you have bought it?
never in a million years. But why not be more fun?
Yeah, hey, appreciate it.
So while Paul pours that, I'm going to tell everyone listening a little story called The Drunken Orgy in the Junction.
Adam leaves for one episode.
The year is 1904. The Americans have just beaten the Spanish in the Spanish-American War. Toronto is up and coming. Junction at this point is its own separate town. So those of you who don't know where the Junction, it's where I live, Keele and Dundas. I think north to St. Clair, between Annette and St. Clair, basically.
Pretty much on Mars.
Yeah, so it's
So hard to get here.
it was very much a working class neighborhood. It's where all the rail lines meet coming in and out of Toronto. It was the last... Oh, let's try this beer.
Yep.
Tastes like dessert.
Oh my god. That tastes like dessert wine. Ooh,
I'm glad we're splitting this can. Because, it's neat for, an espresso cup size.
It's so sweet.
Yeah.
yep. So at this time, the Junction was not the hipster paradise it is today. It was a rough and tumble working class place. There was the Stockyards, which wasn't a high-end shopping mall. It was the biggest stockyards in Canada. So it smelled like
So much blood.
so much blood. And at the time, Ontario and Canada had a rule called the local option, where prohibition was decided on by a county basis. So basically, a city could vote and hold a referendum to have prohibition in effect. And because it was a strong working class neighborhood, there was a lot of working class folks who enjoyed alcohol to numb them to the pain that was early 20th century capitalism in Canada. Because it was not good for these people.
Yeah, as opposed... I'll stop. I don't know what happened.
But while the husbands are off getting drunk, the women and some of the teetotalers and more religious folks were totally against drinking, because at the time it was seen as a very sinful thing. And the Junction had a referendum. And Carrie A. Nation, who was a prohibitionist lunatic who had syphilis, came up from the States to help drum up this support.
Hey, syphilis isn't something you do. It's something that happens to you.
It happened to her. I feel bad for her. She had a terrible life. So the Junction basically passed prohibition. And the ban was to go into effect on May 1st of 1904. So on Saturday, April 30th, there was an election in the city of Toronto. Toronto's right next to the Junction at the time. And at the time, you couldn't sell alcohol on election day. So the very last day that alcohol was legal in the Junction was also the day that nobody in all of Toronto could get any booze anywhere. And all the hotels, all the bars, and all the liquor stores in the Junction are trying to get rid of all their stock. The Junction at the time had 7,000 people living in it.
See, so at this point, George Clooney and Marky Mark are looking out of their fishing boat, and the wave is about the size of a building.
There are 4 bars and 1 liquor store in the Junction at this time. The Peacock Hotel, which is right on the traffic, kind of like weird parquet thing where Dundas and Annette and DuPont all meet, was a really seedy hotel. The last hotel out of Toronto on the way to Hamilton.
That's the first one in.
And the first one in. So 10,000 Torontonians start coming into this little town that's meant to hold 7,000 people. And they show up, and the hotels are just handing out drinks because they're trying to just get rid of their stock. And to quote the Mail and Empire, the streets were crowded with men in various stages of intoxication. There were jolly drunks, fighting drunks, noisy drunks, and stupid drunks.
I like the fact that this guy is listing the known drunks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the drunk is a species. Here are the subspecies. We have seen these. We didn't see a weepy drunk. Very strange.
The Daily News noted, in the dense press of people packed along Dundas, a man might be dead drunk comfortably, for there was no room for him to fall down.
Ah!
Some grew belligerent, others were inclined to sing, and many passed out in outbuildings or stables. And I have a little chant that they were singing as Prohibition was coming into effect. I am so dry, I am so dry, nobody knows how dry I am. And they just sung that over and over and over again.
There's literally no poetry in there.
And surprisingly, despite 10,000 people showing up, they just wanted to get drunk.
10,000 people showing up and tying one on.
Yes.
Like,
I think that sounds like a really good time.
So,
aside from being, like, touched by a lot of people.
yes.
Touching was different back then.
It's true. Everyone was wearing wool. You had, like, 6 layers of clothes between you and your fellow man.
So, because of the amount of people, the hotels, the taverns, and the liquor store ran out of alcohol around 5 p.m.
Recipe for destruction.
And there was no booze to be found in the junction after 7 p.m. And the police showed up and started clearing people out. So once outside, with absolutely no chance of getting liquor, the crowd commenced good-humoredly serenading the mayor and singing drunken songs. The police showed up.
Wait, the crowd was just singing to the mayor?
Yep.
That's incredible.
That's a pretty amazing.
They sang that song to the mayor, and then they police tried to arrest a guy who did something bad, and the police chief pulled out his pistol when everyone got angry and said he'd shoot the first man who follows, and then everyone else was just like, okay, cool, and just messed off.
I mean, yeah. I like that the crowd wasn't so drunk they were like, can't shoot all of us. Everyone was like, I don't want to get shot. No, that seems like a bad hand to try and play.
I mean, they're still pretty responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they were singing songs.
Yeah, that's a very drunk.
All of the newspapers reported fewer than 10 arrests.
I mean, they don't have the manpower to arrest any more than that.
That's true. And then there was the Junction's hangover, which was just them shutting up all of the hotels, all of the bars, and just cleaning people out of the outhouses and stables that they were staying in. And then the Telegram predicted that the Junction, quote, for some time will not witness such debauch.
We've been working on it.
Yeah, we're trying.
Saturday was a quiet day. It was the lull after the storm. The streets had less people on them than usual, and as the day was very bright, many people spent the afternoons in the parks and ravines about town.
It's nice to know that not a lot has changed.
Yeah.
It's kind of comforting.
It's such a park drinking is such a Toronto thing. But for those of you who don't know, this article is from 1904. Prohibition was not lifted in the Junction until the year 2000.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is absolutely nuts.
So I think that the moral of the story is make sure you get out and vote.
Yeah, go vote, idiots.
Yeah, Jesus.
Well, make sure, first of all, that you're white, that you're a Protestant, and that you own property. Like, that's...
Can we get you out of the year that this article is published?
Oh, yes. Go out and get engaged in local politics, because it's a lot more important than you think.
Yeah. Man, municipal politics is where, that's the shit that affects your potholes and your, day-to-day.
Yeah, well, and more than that, too. It's like halfway houses and social programs and lots of other crazy stuff going on.
Day-to-day.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm really excited for, in 100 years when someone is doing, a Warhammer 80K podcast or, I don't know, something cast.
Yeah.
And they tell the stories about our days. And they talk about our orgies and our 10,000 people parties.
Yeah.
So...
They talk about, the 5th Hogtowner where Nick gets killed with a spear. And Paul Hook Hands Fowler.
I think it's Brass Knuckles Fowler, actually.
That's true.
He just had silver knobs for hands.
Order in my silver knobbed court.
It's a great... I honestly, there's a lot of great Junction history. There's a Junction Historical Society just down the street, and they just have pictures and a lot of great stuff from that era.
Cabbage Town is another part of town I want to know more about. Like, I know why it's called Cabbage Town, but like,
I think because of Krauts and Ukes.
no, they you would think that this is one of those things where it's like surprisingly not racist, but very classist.
All right. Oh, so much better.
Like, no. But it's...
I was being sarcastic.
Yeah. No, and I was like... I actually did, like, the social arithmetic in my head, and I was like, oh, no, it's all bad. Basically, that's where a lot of factory workers would live. And instead of having lawns, like the factory owners, the workers would actually have gardens. So eventually it was just called Cabbage Town. Because everyone had cabbage in the front lawn.
And this was not heirloom cabbage.
No, this was like, I'm going to feed my 10 kids.
Yeah, we're going to eat it every day.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
The whole house must have just smelled like farts the entire fucking time.
I do love sauerkraut.
I love sauerkraut, but I don't like boiled cabbage.
Really?
No.
You don't like cabbage rolls?
I like cabbage rolls, but it's stuffed with like cool stuff. That's like saying, do you like sandwiches? Why don't you love bread the most of anything? Actually, yeah, no, that's a bad example. Bread's so friggin' tight.
If you want to hear more Toronto history,
hit us up.
Let us know.
We can just do an entire Toronto history podcast.
I think this should be a plug for the Hogtowner to come to the Hogtowner and come enjoy the areas that you hear about.
it's true.
Absolutely come to the Hogtowner. Also, Nick, do you have like a Instagram or anything you'd like to plug? Where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you could find me on Instagram. I think it's on GrabCardo is my Instagram handle.
I think it's grab.cardo.
It might be grab.cardo. Yeah.
Is Instagram kind of like email addresses where the dots are kind of agnostic?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure no one else has a name like that, so you can just search for it.
It's grab.cardo.
There you go. Thanks.
Oh, there
Thanks,
you go.
Nick. Yeah.
Check him out. He's a good guy.
Sometimes I just turn the shower on full blast cold and just point the fan out into the bedroom. It's so nice.
Sometimes I take a gun and shoot myself in the heart, and I can't die. I'm cursed.